Hi everybody, this is Eric Johnson. I have very good news if it works out, but I'm pretty sure I have figured out my solve and I have figured out where the treasure is and I have seen the blaze. As you know from watching my videos, if you have, I've been looking for the blaze, pretty much figured out the solve to my personal belief, but could not figure out where the blaze was. The blaze for me is very interesting. It's a natural phenomenon. And it's probably not that. That's kind of could be ubiquitous, right? A natural phenomena. It's an unusual natural phenomena. It's something that stands out. And yet the funny thing is, I've been looking for it now for months. And even though it, quote, stands out, I had looked over it numerous times. Even though I'm looking for a specific thing, physical structure, a physical thing, a physical object, however you want to put it. Even though I have been looking for this thing over and over in this area, I finally said, okay, Eric, brass tacks, look exactly, take the clues exactly to where it should be, and just focus on this fairly small part of the area. The area I'm in is West Yellowstone, Madison River. Go to the specific spot and just look again. And be a little bit open in the way you approach it. And there it was. And I went, whoa, that's exactly what it should look like. I knew the blaze was going to look like something in particular, and it was there. And I thought of all the things Fenn has said about it. Someone told me recently, they said in the last video that Fenn did with Doug Preston, Karen Reinhardt told me in an email. She said, did you hear Fenn say that the sunlight cannot reach the treasure chest? That makes sense to me. My treasure chest is indeed beneath something that I speculate is the blaze. I can see why the sunlight can't get to it. The only thing that throws me a little about my speculation on what this is that I don't consider it totally, well, I don't know how many of you remember this, but Fenn has gotten himself into a couple of little run-ins with people, with searchers. He has said things and then either had to backtrack. We have, of course, the famous example with the piñon nuts, smelling the piñon nuts, and he backtracked on that. There are no piñon nuts around my location. But remember, we had the whole thing of a kid could find it. A kid could theoretically find it. A kid theoretically I could understand how Fenn could even say a kid theoretically might even have an easier time of finding it with my blaze and with my treasure chest. I could see that. But at the same time, realistically, it's unlikely your child would be where I'm going. I mean, let's put it this way. If you were camping in this area and your child was where I'm going, you're not really keeping a good eye on your child. Okay? But if you were right next to the treasure chest, and I could see how your kid could find it. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be gobbledygook here. I'm just saying, yeah, that fits, that would work. So you know that if you've been following my videos, you know that in the end here, and I believe it truly is the end, and I'll see. I know I can go out there and just look silly and not find it. I mean, let's face it, I thought the Homa Brown was the summer home of Molly Brown in Denver and did a video on that. I thought the Blaze was a Indian medicine wheel. The Fremont Indians or the Shoshone Indians in Vermilion Creek in Colorado, and actually walked all the way down to the medicine wheel and videoed all that. And I don't think that's it now. And then, of course, I went out to Dinosaur National Monument, and I found what I believe to be a very, very real facsimile of an eagle hovering off of a cliff top, looking down over a little patch of land. I thought that was the Blaze looking down on this little patch of land next to the Yampa River. Went out there and looked for that, didn't find it. So, all three of those things have, though, in common the fact that they are, all three of those solves on my part were pulled together by me doing map searches. I found places that I thought could be where warm waters halt, and then I would go and I would construct a mental map or a real map of where the treasure would be following that. Now, in the case of things like the medicine wheel, I thought I had to go down the creek from where the medicine wheel was on the side of Vermilion Creek, or possibly down the side of the land that the medicine wheel was on. In Dinosaur National Monument, of course, I thought the treasure should be on this piece of land that was right below where this eagle head's looking down. And then with the Molly Brown one, that was my most far out, and I have to admit, it was my first introduction to the hunt, and I just I thought, gee, it's somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. I've kind of got this theory about the Molly Brown house. When I was looking up things like the fact that Molly Brown is married to a gold prospector and that he had become rich, and this was all prior to her being on the Titanic and the unsinkable Molly Brown and all that, I thought it's just too perfect that she met this guy in Leadville and in Colorado, and they ended up, in having these two homes in Denver, and it's right on Bear Creek, etc. I got really excited, and if you ever see the video, those videos, of course, would be like 10-parters. Far cry from now, but I was on boots on the ground, so they were interesting to do. But that one was pretty far out because the least realistic clue in my Molly Brown search, the first one I ever did out in Denver, was I believe that where warm waters halt was a reservoir where they mixed warm and cold fish together, and I thought it was billed, when I read about this reservoir in Denver, it was said to be a very unusual phenomena to have an area where warm and cold water fish mixed. And so I, of course, went, aha, for Fenn, a fisherman, that means something. So, looking back, I really tried to cobble together that reservoir to fit warm waters halt, because my real clue in there that I was following was the southern home of Molly Brown, home of Brown. What was I going to say? I was going to say all of those things were cobbled together by natural phenomenon or natural landscapes, and I cobbled together maps that fit. It was literally that simple. I realize now it wasn't a silly thing to do. And in the first one, I admit, I wanted to go to Denver. So I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to go to Denver and kind of, have this cool hunt and look at Bear Creek under the home of Molly. Look at Bear Creek under the home of Molly Brown, etc. That was real fun. Yeah, the home of the groundhogs. There's a big groundhog village when you go into the Bear Creek Greenbelt Park there right south of the Homomali ground. I really got a kick out of those groundhogs, although they're tremendously destructive for the habitat for ranchers. So Fenn's told someone that there was only one spot. There was only one. My God, there's the damn groundhogs. Well, remember I said I didn't think groundhogs like people? Look at the freaking groundhogs. There's groundhog holes. The guy's looking at me. Isn't that hilarious? Can you see that? Oh my God, I have to go through a groundhog village. Look at the groundhog village. I got to go through a groundhog town. My God, there's a groundhog hole right here next to the parking spot. This is friggin' hilarious. There was one of those dudes looking at me too. They're cute animals. So I look now upon those trips as looking for things. I will say though, I'm proud of the fact that there was a progression that I think got smarter. Dinosaur National Monument, where Warm Waters Halt, started with Flaming Gorge in Utah, and then went over the border, and we know about Borders bookstore. And like I said, Homa Brown, I kind of cobbled that together, almost forcing it to work. The medicine wheel I was extremely excited about because I could just see Forrest Fenn, the lover of Indian culture, Native American culture. I could just see him really enjoying going down and seeing this medicine wheel and stuff. People rightfully, though, pointed out to go down and see that medicine wheel was incredibly, quite frankly, it wasn't incredibly difficult, but it was dangerous, and you had to be real careful because you were going up and down somewhat steep land with a lot of rocks and gravel, and if you see the videos, you'll see that I have to be careful. Of course, I always carry a walking stick, doesn't matter where I go. But especially where I'm in land where it's a little bit rugged. And that was rugged. And I still remember a guy saying, "What do you think this is, an Ironman competition?" And those are the times, you go all the way out on a trip. You go all the way out to Vermilion. I was up in Rock Springs, Wyoming. I traveled down to Vermilion Creek, went out in this very remote, rugged country. No cell service. People said, "What do you do if you get hurt?" I always have it set up that someone's going to get a phone call by 10 p.m. my time. Or I take that back, 10 p.m. their time. And if they don't get the phone call, there's a problem. Because you have to be smart. I mean, especially if you're going out in a place like Vermilion Creek where, you could fall and break a leg. And in that series, I actually stopped searching. On that trip, I actually stopped searching because I got to a point where I had to go across an icy pond, or I had to go up an old wooden ladder to about 10 I think it was about 10 foot, 11 foot to a precipice. Then to go on to find the hieroglyphs I thought could possibly be kind of a secondary blaze. First blaze was medicine wheel, but if I go down the creek, well, then I go down the creek, and so look quickly down, didn't find anything. Well, then it's probably down where I've heard there's some hieroglyphics. Oh, but I got to go over through an ice pond or over this. It was literally a case of being brave, going up this old ladder or going across the cold water. It was quite something, and I was like, I just didn't do it, folks, And a couple of people gave me the business because they said, you went all that way and then you kind of chickened out. And I said, I'm by myself. I'm in a very remote area. If I break a leg going up this ladder, or if I go into this pond with ice on it, it was so funny because when I got right to the edge of the water where the ice was, I went down to test how thick. Well, actually, I could see the ice was kind of floating in sheets, but then it was, I slipped anyway and got in the water without even meaning to. I thought, this is not smart. It's a long story, doesn't matter. Part two coming up in a second. I rambled way too much on that first part. I've got to get to the heart of what I'm trying to say because I am absolutely convinced I have found the blaze. I know exactly where the treasure is in relation to the blaze. That's part of it. And I'm very excited to go out this summer. I wish I could go out there tomorrow. I mean, I could. I could go in May. Part two coming up.